Hey everyone, this is Heidi from the blog Hands Occupied. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to close the gap when you're working short rows in knitting. When you work short rows in knitting, one of the common things you need to watch out for is a gap in your stitches. So in this video, I want to walk you through how to look for and then close a gap in your short rows. So let's pretend on my handful of stitches on my needle here that I need to work some short rows. So I'm going to work partway through the row, just doing some simple knit stitch. All right, 2, 4, 6, and 6. All right, so I've worked half the stitches in my row. Now what I'm going to do is turn my work to go back the other way. I'm going to slip a stitch and knit a stitch like so, and then I'm going to turn my work one more time. So the reason we've done 2 quick turns is to get these gaps that I'm talking about in my row. So what we need to do is slip the first stitch, and then right here is what I'm talking about when I say work until the gap in your knitting. So we've worked the first stitch of our short row, and now you can see just naturally laying in the row, there's this gap right here. There's a gap because that stitch has already been worked in our short row, turning around back and forth. And what we need to do is a decrease to close that gap so that there's not a hole in our knitting. So a common decrease that you use in short rows is an SSK, so slip, slip, knit, to close that gap, and then I'm going to work one more stitch, like so. So now we're going to turn our work and work again. I'm going to slip one, and on this side I'm going to purl until I find the gap in my knitting again. And you can see pretty clearly right here, it's almost a centimeter wide, the gap that we have come to. And since we're on the purl side of our work, we're just going to do a decrease across that gap. So purl 2 together to close it right up, like so. And then I'm going to purl one more before turning my work. And now I'll show you both the right side and the wrong side one more time just to show you how to identify those gaps and close them in your short rows. So I'm going to slip that first stitch and knit until I find the gap in my work. And just like that, you can see the gap really clearly again. Even at a finer gauge than this, that gap becomes really apparent in your work because your stitches are laying so much further apart at the gap than they do in other places on your needle. Again, to close it on the knit side, we're going to do an SSK, and then a knit one, and then turning to the other side for one last demonstration, we're going to slip the first stitch and purl till we find that gap. And you can see here that we've got to purl one more time till we're at the gap, and then we will purl 2 together across the gap to close it before finishing our row with a knit stitch. And you can see here, now that we've got this triangular shape on our needles, that we've successfully worked our short rows because we've got more real estate in terms of knitting down here at the center than off at the sides. As you can see, with just a couple of appropriately placed decreases, you can avoid gapping in your short row knitting. Let us know in the comments section if you have any questions.